I want you to try something before I explain anything. Close your eyes and picture the biggest shopping mall you've ever walked through. The one that made your legs hurt. Got it? Now forget it. What I'm about to show you is roughly the size of 2 entire Vatican Cities stacked into one building. And that's still not the craziest part of this story. I'm standing in front of a building in Wuhan, China, called Dream Plaza, and here's the number that broke my brain: 800,000 square meters. If that means nothing to you, try this: it's larger than 13 actual countries combined. Monaco, San Marino, Malta, the Maldives. Add them all together, land and all, and you still haven't matched the floor space of this one commercial building. And I haven't even opened the door yet. You don't walk into Dream Plaza expecting a mall. You walk in expecting a mall, and about 4 minutes later you start quietly questioning what a building is even supposed to be. So let's go find out together, because seriously, I didn't believe half of what's inside here either, until I saw it. The first thing that hits you isn't a store. It's the ceiling, or the absence of a normal one. This place was designed around a concept its architects call 4 seasons under one roof, each section of the building carrying its own light, its own color palette, its own temperature-controlled mood. Most malls give you fluorescent lighting and a food court. This one gives you an actual climate. That's not even the headline feature. The central atrium is built like a double helix, the same twisting shape as a strand of DNA, wrapped in 1,500 strings of color shifting LED lighting that ripple overhead like the building itself is breathing. Would you trust an elevator ride to feel like walking through a kaleidoscope? Because that's basically what this is. And here's a fact I had to read twice. This building runs on 243 elevators. Not escalators, elevators. Most international airports operate with somewhere between 40 and 90. This mall has nearly 3 times that number, just to move people between 10 total levels, 9 above ground, 4 buried underground. Stacked like a commercial iceberg. Take a second and think about that. An underground shopping city that most visitors never even realize exists, sitting quietly beneath the one they came to see. But why build something at this scale in the first place? That's the part that actually matters, and it's not really about shopping at all. China's mall boom wasn't built around the idea of buying a t-shirt. It was built around a bigger bet, that if street-level retail culture is fading, someone can rebuild that entire social fabric indoors. Under one roof, massive enough to become a destination in itself. Dream Plaza is one answer to that bet, and the money behind it makes the ambition obvious. Construction alone cost more than 12 billion yuan. North of $1.6 billion poured into a single retail complex. That number bought a lot more than storefronts. There's a rooftop platform called the Dream Eye, a 40-meter wide circular observation deck you can walk a full 360 degrees around. Sitting on top of a building that already contains an amusement park, a ski resort. And, I promise I'm not making this up, a working equestrian center. Yes. Horses. Inside a shopping mall. On purpose. If this becomes normal, what happens to the idea that malls are just places you go to buy things and leave? Let's go inside the 2 features that made my jaw physically drop. The first is what the building calls its aerial power park, a vertical amusement zone spanning 7 entire floors with no interior columns breaking up the space. Roller coasters, high-altitude swing rides, spinning attractions, suspended in open air, 7 stories off the ground. In the middle of a shopping center. Picture riding a coaster and looking straight down through open atrium space at people buying sneakers 3 floors below you. That's literally the layout. The second stopped me in my tracks. On another section of the upper floors sits a 27,000 square meter indoor ski and snow park, held at a constant -5 degrees Celsius. With a 200-meter run angled at a real 14-degree slope, real snow, real ice, real instructors. Wuhan sits in a humid subtropical climate where summer regularly climbs past 35 degrees Celsius. On any given July afternoon, you can be sweating in the parking lot and shivering on a ski slope within a 10-minute walk. Would you even believe this was possible 10 years ago, a functioning winter sport facility, hidden inside a mall? In one of the hottest cities in central China? Here's a detail that rarely makes the highlight reels. The fourth underground level houses what the building's own designers call Asia's largest immersive dining district, an entire reconstructed street scene built to look and feel like Wuhan in the 1980s. Old-style trams, ferry docks, riverside wharves, market alleys. You're not just eating dinner. You're eating dinner inside a walk-through recreation of a version of the city that no longer exists anywhere else. China's megamalls aren't just selling products anymore. They're selling nostalgia as architecture. If Dream Plaza houses over 600 stores, a theme park, a ski resort, a horse stable, a rooftop observatory, and a recreated historical district, all inside one continuous structure, at what point does it stop being a mall in any meaningful sense at all? This isn't an isolated flex, either. It's a pattern. But before you write it off as one weird building in one Chinese city, there's context that changes everything. Even the exterior tells a story most visitors miss. Each wing is wrapped in a different architectural language tied to its internal theme, one inspired by spring cherry blossoms, another by the visual rhythm of flowing summer water. Before you even walk through a door, the building is already telling you which season you're about to enter. Underneath the ski slope sits something you'd expect in a data center. Not a shopping center, 9 intelligent power distribution rooms managing more than 10,000 connected devices. Plus China's first mall-based data center built to the country's classified protection 2.0 security standard, the same tier used for sensitive government and financial systems. A passenger flow analysis system tracks foot traffic across more than 200 zones in real time, automatically adjusting lighting and air conditioning as crowds shift through the day. Think about what that means. This building isn't just big, it's watching itself, constantly recalculating its own internal weather based on where you're standing. A mall running its own microclimate system off live crowd data isn't competing with the mall down the street anymore. It's borrowing smart city infrastructure and pointing all of it at one commercial building. Who's actually behind something this size? The mall operates under the Wushang name, developed with backing tied to Sunac China, one of the country's largest real estate and cultural tourism developers, a company that builds entire leisure ecosystems designed to keep people inside them as long as possible. At the opening of the ski section, a Sunac cultural tourism executive said the goal wasn't to build a store, it was to bring 4 seasons of ice and snow to people who'd otherwise never see snow, in a city where summer pushes past 35 degrees outside the front doors. That's not marketing by accident. That's the business model, stated out loud. Here's the truth nobody says directly. Malls like this exist because they solve the problem retail has quietly panicked over for a decade, the death of any reason to physically leave your house. Online shopping killed the need to walk into a store just to buy something. So the industry's answer, at least in China, wasn't to make stores more convenient. It was to make the building itself the destination. And Dream Plaza isn't alone in this arms race. Chengdu has the New Century Global Center, a single roof so large that multiple aircraft carriers could theoretically fit underneath it, with its own indoor beach. Beijing has Golden Resources, once considered the largest mall on the planet before buildings like this one quietly took the title. Dubai has spent 2 decades trying to outbuild itself with the Dubai Mall. Even the U.S. answered with the American Dream Mall in New Jersey, complete with its own indoor ski slope. But most of those projects took a decade or more to open, fighting funding gaps and redesigns. Dream Plaza went from a concept discussed as early as 2017 to a fully operational 800,000 square meter complex with over 600 stores in just a few years, opening November 9, 2022. Would you even believe that timeline if I hadn't shown you the receipts? It wasn't just built to hold stores, it was built to absorb people. Underneath the whole complex sits parking for 8,000 vehicles, close to the capacity of a mid-sized sports stadium. Built on the assumption that busy would eventually become permanent. And the stores themselves aren't arranged the way you'd expect. Flagship outposts for major domestic tech brands, entire floors of gaming hardware and customizable mechanical keyboards. Robotics and coding education storefronts for kids, skincare concepts built more like walk-through brand museums than shops. This isn't retail arranged by category anymore. It's retail arranged by fantasy, the fantasy of the future, of childhood wonder. Of an entirely different climate, all connected by 243 elevators built to move you from one fantasy into the next. Now think about the people who actually keep this thing running, because that's a story in itself. A building this size doesn't operate on autopilot. Reports around the opening put the on-site workforce. From retail staff to maintenance crews to ski instructors, somewhere in the thousands. All coordinated inside one structure like the population of a small town clocking in and out every day. Somebody has to groom that ski slope every single morning before the first visitor takes a lift. Somebody has to check safety harnesses on a roller coaster suspended 7 stories above a handbag store. Somebody has to keep horses calm inside a building where the walls are made of glass and LED screens instead of open pasture. None of that happens by accident, and none of it is cheap. And then there's opening day itself. When Dream Plaza first opened its doors in November 2022. Local reports described crowds so large that parts of the mall had to manage entry in waves just to keep walkways from turning into gridlock. Thousands of people funneling into an underground dining district built to look like 1980s Wuhan, all on the same afternoon. Picture that for a second. A brand new building, barely finished, already testing its own capacity limits on day one. Because everyone in the city wanted to see if the rumors were true. Here's something else worth sitting with. A project like this doesn't just create a building, it reshapes the economy of everything around it. Local reporting around the development pointed to thousands of jobs created directly by the mall's construction and operation. Plus an entire secondary economy of suppliers, food vendors, and service contractors that now depends on Dream Plaza staying full of people. When a single commercial project becomes that central to a district's economic identity, the mall stops being just a retail space. It becomes infrastructure. It becomes the reason a neighborhood exists in its current form at all. 50 years ago, malls solved one simple problem: convenience. Park once, buy everything you need, go home. But today, your phone already does that better. Same-day delivery, personalized apps, endless online choices. So malls like Dream Plaza aren't trying to make shopping easier anymore. They're trying to make shopping feel like an experience you'd regret missing. That explains almost everything inside this building. A ski slope in a city that reaches over 35 degrees Celsius in summer isn't there because people desperately need skiing. It's there because almost nobody can casually do it elsewhere. Scarcity creates curiosity, curiosity creates headlines, and headlines bring crowds. And that raises a bigger question. If people keep showing up for spectacle rather than shopping, what happens to smaller districts that can't compete? Critics argue megamalls don't just attract customers, they pull an entire neighborhood's foot traffic into one climate-controlled world, leaving the streets outside quieter than before. At the same time, these places are no longer competing with other malls. They're competing with staying home. Streaming, food delivery, endless entertainment on a screen. A ski slope, a giant atrium, or a live horse can't be delivered to your living room. That's probably the most honest reason buildings like this exist at all. At some point, calling it a shopping mall almost feels inaccurate. It's becoming an artificial city designed to keep people inside for as long as possible. And Dream Plaza may only be the beginning. As land gets more expensive, developers are moving upward, stacking more experiences into a single footprint. Other Chinese cities are already proposing similar projects, each trying to be bigger, stranger, and harder to ignore. So here's the real question. If malls stop being places to buy things and become places you never want to leave, what happens to the world outside their walls? What happens to local streets, small businesses, and everyday neighborhoods competing against a building with its own weather, its own ski resort, and its own gravity pulling people inside? Because somewhere in Wuhan right now, a kid is riding a roller coaster 7 floors above a sneaker store. Completely unaware he's standing inside one of the biggest experiments in retail history. To him, it's just a fun day out. And honestly, that might be the whole point.